So when you can raise your frequency through clearing out the trauma and the past through the fascia, you all of a sudden become more authentic and you become more of your light. And then you start to attract more of the things that are from your soul and your purpose. That's what I get so excited about, is that when we clear out the fascia, we actually just take away the past and the trauma and we start to embody more of who we really are. Isn't that what we all want? Didn't they just discover that authenticity is the highest frequency? It's even higher than love. It's the thing that makes you most magnetic.
Lauren, we got there in the end. Welcome to Feelings with Strangers.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And I think we'll just, as mentioning off air, we'll start for people who've not heard of your work. But you've been doing this work with the fascia and body movement for a very, very, very long time. And you've worked with very well-known people. And I love what you're doing now, where you're sort of spreading this information to as many people as possible, rather than going the path of what a lot of people do in the health and wellness space of being very niche. And, you know, you could have made a lot of money working just with celebrities. You're known as the Body Whisperer. How did you become to be the Body Whisperer?
I love it. Okay. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be here
It's a
and to
pleasure.
share the story, and also to support your work and your mission too, because what you're doing is really important, and I appreciate you. And
Thank
holding
you.
space.
Same too.
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
good.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. So it is a funny story. I mean, you can read about my story online, but when I was 16, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, and this was very long time ago. Um, I'm
2 years
40
ago.
now, so it's
You
been a
don't
long
look
journey.
it.
That's how long I've been doing this. So that put me on a path, because I used to drive her. I just got my driver's license, used to drive her to go get chemo at Stanford University, one of the best universities in the world for cancer treatment. And I asked the doctors, where does cancer come from? And why do people get it? You know, someone that seems super healthy, does yoga. And the doctors said, they were like, well, we don't really know where cancer comes from, but part of it's environmental, part of it is genetic, and there's a whole piece that we don't know and understand. And I just went, light bulb, light bulb. I'm going to figure that out. So I went on a journey and studied nutrition and exercise physiology at UC Santa Barbara. I was also at the time an All-American swimmer, and then I played water polo at UC Santa Barbara. And I just dedicated my life to, I guess we'd call it, sports and fitness. And I started, discovering and turning over stones of what it meant to be truly healthy. And what I realized is actually that there was a whole other piece that was the emotional piece, about health and wellness. It's that you can't, exercise or eat your way out of negative emotions and old belief systems and thought patterns and just even epigenetic things that we carry, trauma through our lives. And so it was in my mid 20s, I started studying Pilates. So I started understanding the mind body connection a little bit more. That was back in 2000. And then, so that gave me a really good solid background in kind of like the strength aspect of well being, because you do need to have strength. You can't just live in this kind of ethereal place, because we need to look after the vessel. The body is the way I believe it. And then in my late 20s, I discovered the work of Ida Rolf, which is structural integration. And I became a certified structural integration, actually a Hellerwork structural integration specialist. And that was a 2-year journey. And I started working with some of the people on the planet that are reaching their highest potential. I just somehow attracted these people and was helping them step into their power and feel their true alignment and their true understanding of what, that kind of robust well-being and true like radiance really means. And so I was lucky to be able to learn from using my hands and actually touching these people. Like literally, I sometimes feel like a sculptor when I'm working with these people and
Mm.
helping them kind of wake up and embody these areas that they've maybe let go of or disembodied from or numbed out from, or kind of repetitive motions that might have made them kind of disassociate from certain areas. And so I was, like you mentioned earlier, I was like, I had this waiting list, this long waiting list of all these people that wanted to work with me. And every time I did a session, I would just think, gosh, you know what? Everyone needs to have access to this information and this knowing, this innate intelligence. And so what I discovered in that journey is that I realized that I had this kind of kinesthetic intelligence. And I started realizing I wasn't as good at school, but I was really good with my hands and understanding through my hands, which is really, the what we're calling now the sixth sense, the sense of feeling. And so I was able to luckily write a book that basically put everything together, the concepts, the understanding into a practical formula that was done on the foam roller. And so I basically was able to give people what I had witnessed and learned and grown from, basically the body whisper. I was taking that information and knowledge and wisdom and sensory intelligence and putting it into a system and a formula, or what I call now the Low Rocks method, that anyone could do anywhere in the world. And it's truly like when we were able to do that, it catapulted in over 50 countries in the world, and people were having these massive breakthroughs and transformations without me even having to touch them. It was just through the understanding of their sensory reception through their fascial system, and this whole kind of new awareness and understanding what fascia is.
Ida Rolf, there's so many directions I'd like to go in, but I think we'll begin with the fascia. But Ida Rolf in the West, did she discover the fascia and the importance of it?
Yeah, so I've mentioned this before on other podcasts, and people are like, no, 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 Chinese medicine discovered it, thousands of years ago. And so I would say it's all about interpretation, because I think it was in the 60s, it was discovered that the fascial planes were actually the same planes that were lined up with the Chinese medicine meridian. So it was just an interpretation of the same thing, but from different modalities. But Ida Rolf was remarkable because she was a rocket scientist in the 60s, and she was studying the human body and gravity. And what she discovered is basically that fascia was the thing that was having the biggest impact on our bodies when it came to our relationship to gravity. And that when you got the body aligned and the fascia flowing, that actually spontaneous healing could occur. So she discovered it in the 60s. So yeah, she put it on the map, and she also studied osteopathy, yoga, a lot of other healing modalities, and she put this thing together. And actually just heard, you're going to love this, from one of the people that actually worked right under her and learned from her, that how she came up with what we call the recipe, which is a 10 series of bodywork sessions, and you go through each area of the body, and there's emotional components to each area, and there's physical and biomechanical and energetic components. She came up with this in a dream. So she downloaded it, and it came to her, but she also had studied all these different things and had all this science background and everything. So she had the scientific background to be able to hold the space, but then to download this incredible system that now we still use today, and it will continue to go on because it's so incredibly powerful, and you can always trust the recipe.
It's funny though, isn't it? 'Cause people think that sounds woo-woo if they say I downloaded it in a dream. But like, have you ever sat and contemplated where ideas come from generally? Like, where do even your thoughts come from? And
That's right.
most of the things which have created the modern world, when you listen to the inventors, they've gotten to a point of understanding the technological side, but then the real breakthroughs come through in these moments of insight. Of most often they've been napping or doing something where they're collecting to a greater ether. So it's
I mean,
that in and of itself.
look at
Sorry.
certain music and art,
Oh,
and
music is a yeah. What's
comes
that
through.
great one with? Well, what's that great one of Tom Waits talking about his process where he would just channel the music would come to him, and he said at times he'd be driving on the highway, and a song would be coming to him, and he just not now, give it to somebody. Can't remember the musician. Give it to them. Like, I'm busy. I'm driving.
Exactly. It's so true. And actually, the thing that I love to teach people is that we need to clear away the debris to
Yeah.
awaken our inner technology so that we can allow those ideas and inspiration and creativity to come through us, because that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. Oh, as we mentioned off air, like we're only just starting to get some glimpse of what the potential of the human system is, which I'm going to bookmark that for after we've discussed the fascia. But
Perfect.
let's jump into, because you also mentioned the emotional aspects of healing, and we know that much emotional trauma is stored in different parts of the body, and it's stagnant, it's stuck, and it's dictating much of our behaviors and thoughts. So then maybe I've gone too far with this. I want to firstly touch upon what the fascia does within the body, and then I guess that question I asked is then how does the fascia help to release these stuck energies?
Yes. Okay. So let's start with just a little breakdown of what fascia is and kind of where we are now. So back in, I can't remember exactly what year, but like 2000s, earlier 2000s, there was maybe 2007, they established the first fascial congress. And that was when they basically brought together body workers and people in medicine to come together and look at this system that they're like, there's something here. And so they started really investigating and studying it. And so, back in the day, we used to only study fascia in cadavers, right? So that was in a dead
Mm.
body. And so, in medical school, they would actually tell doctors, like, disregard the fascia, just throw it away. It's the packing wrap. Of course, they don't do that now, but that was happening not that long ago, which is kind of a massive breakthrough that we're now realizing that fascia is so incredibly important. And when you can actually study it in a living body, that's when the changes really happen. So that was in 2017 and 18 that the new, type of medical technology and cameras that we could actually study the body in a living body, not just under a microscope. So I like to use this visual of the sponge. Okay. So this
Mm.
is what you would see as like the, kind of cadaver fascia. This is the dried up fascia that does not have the liquid crystal water involved anymore. And this is what happens as we age. So aging is a form of dehydration. So you can see this is hard, right? So if I added water to this,
Just sorry,
right?
Lauren. Just for people listening, you're holding up. Is it a
Oh,
is
yes.
that a coral sponge that, but like
It's
a
kind
body
of
dry
like
brush?
a loofah, like a nice,
Yeah,
there's also, I have just like a traditional sponge as well that's dried up. If you had your sponge at your
yeah.
sink, it's dried up.
So just
So think
imagine a dry old sponge
a
that's
dry
smelly that's
old
sitting in your
sponge that's,
laundry.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You could drop it on the ground and you could actually hear it. It's kind of brittle. And
yeah.
so essentially this is what happens as we age. And so this was kind of what we were studying, when we study it on cadavers and that type of thing. So now what we're studying is something that's much more of a liquid crystal. So it's a malleable system. Some people call it a biological fabric that keeps us elastic. That was what we used to say. Now, we used to call it like the scaffolding of the body or the organ of form. So it's the thing that creates our shape. So early in my career, when I was feeling like I was molding people, we were actually like having these shape shifting breakthroughs where people's body would actually change shape. They would actually become taller. They would become
Yeah.
more narrow. They'd become slimmer. They would become more sculpted. You would see the muscles more because you take away this thickness and density and you bring in this beautiful hydration of the liquid crystal coming through the body. And this radiance would show up, this glow. But now, what I'm more excited about is that actually the fascia is also where we hold our emotions because of the water. The water component of the body is the reason why we can hold emotions. And it also the emotions carry a frequency and a vibration. So now, the way we look at fascia with the new science and also the ancient wisdoms is we see the fascia as a quantum communication system that's sending and receiving sound, light, vibration, frequency, emotions, water, and nutrients. And so if you can imagine, and electricity, right? So it's actually
Mm.
now, instead of saying that fascia is the biological fabric that keeps us elastic, I would say that fascia is the biological fabric that actually keeps us electric. So we have this, ancient wisdoms have been saying it, life force energy, prana, chi, whatever you
Light.
want to
Yeah.
call it. Yeah, light. We actually have, now we know scientifically it's validated that we have infrared light inside of us that gets dimmed when we have thick and dried up dense fascia. And the emotions get stuck in that hard, thick, dense fascia. So that's why I'm so excited about somatic healing, because the body is where we store a lot of these emotions. The body actually remembers every single thing, even the things that your mind forgets. And I like to say that the fascia is the thing that remembers even the things that your mind forgets, like the conscious mind. So it's like the subconscious mind is living in the fascia. And where we have these thickness and dense areas is where we become disembodied, and we are carrying a heaviness and a lower frequency, possibly a trauma or a belief system or a thought pattern or an emotion that's making us feel thicker, denser, heavier, and less of that lightness. So the way I look at it is when you apply pressure with a roller, or I've got lots of these tools. What we're doing, the pressure is actually stimulating what's called piezoelectricity, pressure electricity, which is basically bringing your energy, your essence, and your soul back into those areas that you've disembodied from. Now, that's what I witnessed when I would work with people hands-on as the body whisperer. But now what I've done is I've created a system that actually allows you to become your own body whisperer and to be in those parts of your body that you've maybe let go of or disembodied from, or, just kind of numbed out from. And so I think a lot of what we were talking about earlier too, the wellness world is just right now in a really toxic place, because it's helping people want to just outsource more, like with whether it's more
Mm.
self-help books or more supplements or whatever, more equipment, whatever it is. And the reality is that actually what we need to do is insource. We have so much healing ability inside of us that we actually haven't been taught that ever growing up. Your body is so much more powerful than we've ever been led to believe, and we're just starting to realize this through the new medical technology, through the ancient wisdoms, and through the science and the spirit coming together, finally
Mm.
coming together in
Mm.
this urgence. And so what I love is that, your fascia is not just connective tissue, it's actually your soul's Wi-Fi. I really feel like fascia is the bridge between the body and the soul. And so it has this conductivity. It's actually like it's the thing that makes you like almost like a live tuning fork. So when you can raise your frequency through clearing out the trauma and the past through the fascia, you all of a sudden become more authentic, and you become more of your light. And then you start to attract more of the things that are from your soul and your purpose. So that's what I get so excited about, is that when we clear out the fascia, we actually just take away the past and the trauma, and we start to embody more of who we really are, which is like, isn't that what we all want? Didn't they just
Mm.
discover that authenticity is the highest frequency? It's even higher than love. It's the thing that makes you most magnetic. It's the thing that makes you most just attractive, truly. So I think that's what makes me so excited.
I think authenticity too is it's interesting. It's the main regret that people have on their deathbed was they didn't have the courage to live their authentic lives and their authentic selves. So it's obviously our soul's mission to come here and be the full expression of whatever that may be, rather than this automaton of cultural malaise and expectations and family and the rest of it. And so much of it is blocked through the trauma of just being a human being like that. And what I
And
love,
then this
sorry, go on.
cycle, that trauma just creates the same, you can just see it's like a neural pathway. It's a pathway. It's not just in the brain
Yeah.
though, it's in the body too. It's like even our postures, right, influence our personality, which influences our reality and how we show up in the world, and how we present our bodies and how we present our heart in the world is how people will receive us. And then there's this quantum, energetic thing that
Mm.
shows up. So I know I could go on long tangents with you about this, but I
No,
know we unpack some of these other things too.
no. I'm gonna loop it back because it all fits in perfectly together. I was just
Okay.
gonna bring up a small part of what I experienced the first time I went for a kinesiology massage, uh, and it was sort of mixed with Bowens and the amazing woman who did this stuff. And I thought it was this was many years ago when I was still I found anything to do with the let's call it the outside of the not outside of the mainstream, but I was still conditioned to think that these things were strange and what am I doing here? But as soon as I had my first session, I'm like, oh, I'm all in. It's fine. But she started digging. I thought like I was pretty healthy. I did yoga. I exercised, and she started digging around in my kidneys and my liver, and I'd never had pain like that. And obviously it's because I was storing. She started to go on about, the storing of, as we know in Chinese medicine, the storing of anger is in the liver and all these other things.
Yeah.
And how it's almost like it's that thing of when you get that kind of body work done from someone who really knows, like yourself, like has that special touch and gets the feedback of that person's body. I walked out of there a changed person for a long period of time. Like it was entirely like all the things which were worrying me or the things which would usually upset me had just dissipated into the ether all through this body work, which then ties into how we still understand a lot of, let's say, trauma or these negative aspects of the shadow of the self, that we're going to sit and talk through it. And we all know people who, and we've all done this ourselves, we intellectually understand something through and through. Like we know that we react a certain way because we downloaded that from a parent and that's what they did. But that intellectual knowing does absolutely nothing to stop the behavior. If anything, you should get into, I've gotten in a pattern loop of where then I become this sort of resentment of, I can't believe I did that again. Because as you said, it's stored as we're, like it's been known in other ancient cultures for a long time, but it's becoming more part of the zeitgeist. So we're understanding it's stored in the body. You need to move it out through the body. And what is amazing is that, as you mentioned, you can do this at home with a few simple tools.
Yeah,
Like what a
exactly.
breakthrough.
I mean, to be honest, it really was, because as a body worker, you really you can only see so many people, and like I
Yeah,
was seeing maybe, I mean, I'm 7 or 8 people a day, and I was, an hour and a half
jeez.
session each one. And this is before having kids.
Yeah,
And so but it was like, and I was super strong, so I could do it. But after a while, there's only, you can't, it's a lot of energy to hold space for too, especially because people are having these massive breakthroughs. I mean, earlier
releases.
in my career, I would get sick a lot because I was like trying to fix people. And then I realized, no, 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 this is about them fixing themselves. And it was just like all I was doing is just basically helping people remove the blockages and the congestion, and to come back into themselves again, to feel themselves again. Because it's like we were mentioning earlier, just that disembodiment and the numbing out, and just the outsourcing everything has really made people become congested, inflamed, out of touch with the language of their body. I mean, the body
Mm.
does speak to us. It speaks to us through our fascia, through interoception. That's what science calls feeling, through the sensory receptors that line the fascia. And there's over 250 million that we know of. This is scientifically researched. 250 million sensory receptors in the fascial system. That's more than our eyes and our skin. And so what that makes us realize is that our fascia is constantly sensing every single thing, and it's talking to the nervous system, and it's saying you're safe or you're unsafe. I'm living in fear, or I'm living in joy, or I'm living in faith. And so it's a really interesting dance that our mind does with our body, but our fascia is receiving through this reception, perception, we could call it too, the perception. And so that is really important, because as we start to really get clear with the wholeness of who we are, and the relationships that we're in, and the environments we're putting ourselves in, and the food that we're eating, and the information we're ingesting, all that stuff, when we start to get really clear with that, and we clear out not just what we're eating, but what we're
Mm.
thinking, and what we're actually taking in from like a frequency. Like that's what we were talking about earlier, like how important it is to get outside and get in nature, because those are the native EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, that actually help sync our body and resynchronize our system. And when we go and, we both travel, like we're on planes a lot, you go get all that non-native EMFs from the Wi-Fi and flying and X-rays and all of that stuff. We have to be really responsible for that, because even though it's in the invisible world, we know it's there. I mean, Wi-Fi works even though you can't see it. So we have
Mm,
Wi-Fi in our bodies that I believe is the fascia, and we need to resync that system. We need to recharge the body battery, the fascial system, that bioelectricity through getting being in nature more, and also awakening that in, I like to call it the BI, the body intelligence. We have to wake up our body intelligence again so that we can realize when we're really tired or we're exhausted or we need we need to do a bit of a cleanse, or we need to go into the forest for rest, right, to restore. And maybe if we're feeling depressed, we need to get outside and be in nature and resync with the biological circadian rhythms of nature, but also our bodies as well. So we're all, I think a lot of us, like you and I, are really craving more of that, especially as AI is starting to rise and take over. We're now realizing we need to have our BI also come along for the journey. And I actually believe that AI, if we use it right and correctly, will make us less needing to be on the computer less because we can be more efficient. So that's the energy that I'm putting. And this is what Deepak Chopra talks a lot about too. He's like, the more that the people that are conscious can feed AI, the more it will actually help us evolve humanity. If we keep feeding it this consciousness and this understanding and this evolution, or Richard Rudd calls it the involution, we're having an involution. So we're
mm,
realizing the power we have within. And it's not about just outer space, it's inner space that's actually evolving and expanding, and this understanding of these different dimensions and how we are multidimensional beings. And so I think as the AI is rising, we need to continue to keep rising, and I guess not even rising, but remembering and activating our BI, our body intelligence. And so, like what you were saying earlier, it's like we can consume all these podcasts and read all these books and hear all these things and go to all these conferences and intellectualize it into our head. And it's almost like mental obesity. And so,
that's
do
a great
that,
term. Yeah,
right? Mental obesity. It's like we have all this stuff
yeah.
in our head, but we're not living it and we're not breathing it and we're not embodying it. And so, what I love about this new chapter we're going into is we actually have this opportunity to not just be over consuming this stuff, but to take a moment to reset. And this is like the masculine and the feminine. So the masculine is the mind, the intellect, and the feminine is the feeling and the living and the embodied, the beingness of this wisdom. And so by awakening and remembering our body intelligence, we actually, what happens is we start to have this evolution of beyond the intellect. Beyond the intellect lies this innate intelligence that whispers through sensations,
Mm,
through that full body yes and the full body no, through arousal, through inspiration, what takes your breath away. And so we have to clear out the monkey mind. And so that's why meditation in the last few years has just been so important, right, for humanity. But now we're coming into a new, as you're feeling this too, a new era where meditation is not going to give us what we need now. We need somatic healing, which is the healing of the body through movement, through
mm,
body work, through this type of thing, to really turn on that sensory reception, that sensory intelligence. So the feeling that we get when we give someone a hug, that is the juiciness. Or when we have a chuckle together or a laugh, or we share a kiss, or we
mm.
have an embrace, or we stand on the earth and we look someone in the eyes. These are the things that we humans are really craving right now. And I think that's why even the online world is getting trickier too, because it's so loud and there's so many experts. I mean, I've been doing this for so long now that I'm just like, I never jumped on the bandwagon, the wellness bandwagon. This was my life's purpose and journey all the way through. And so it's really interesting to see, because I'm like, it's hard. You don't really know what to say now because you're like, everyone's chatting about all the same
So much
shit,
noise.
but no
Yeah.
one's fucking living it. So it's just so frustrating to me. But I guess this
Yeah.
is part of the process.
Well, it's still coming out of salvation theology. So we've had thousands of years of, the saviors coming back in all forms of religions except
Yeah.
removing Buddhism. So we've had that mentality of the external, everything is outward, even though the teachings obviously of Jesus were like, the kingdom is within. That got completely washed away. The kingdom is you give me a couple of $1,000 and a ruby and we'll send you to the pearly gates. So it's like and then you see that now. I think the combination of the health and wellness space with the amount of money that's to be made combined
Yeah.
with this reach of these people, and it is again like most people still come when they have an illness. What can I take? And most of the time, 99% of the time, it's like, no, no, what can you remove? Like, you got to remove all the things. It's not what you can take. The supplement's not going to do anything. And I'm hyper conscious and vigilant of either not having people on the podcast who have any. You can I can sense when it's a disingenuous. And look, I've been caught up in stuff before as well, so I'm certainly not perfect in terms of my discernment's not 100% all the time. But also just not speaking to things that I don't embody. So if I'm not living that way and I'm not doing those things in my daily life, then how am I going to talk about it? Because it's completely false. Like I can't, and even the things I'm doing, not everything's going to work for everyone, but at least I'm coming from a place of authenticity that it's worked for me. Uh, but look, not to go too far down that dark road. What the beautiful thing is, we have an opportunity now, and there's so many ways that we can start to embody these practices and to start living them, and a lot of low hanging fruit in terms of it's not going to cost to the earth. You're not going to have to change. You're not going to have to wear white and move to India and sit in devotion at a yogi's feet for the next 20 years. So we are at the precipice of this amazing age where people do seem to be becoming more aware of this. I just want to share something I heard yesterday from the Institute of Noetic Sciences, where they study the extra phenomena of sensing, so to do with telepathy and
Oh,
um,
yes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
So they study all of these. They put the same sort of scientific framework that's required for the language of our times for people to sort of accept it. But they've got, like, in terms of telepathy, there's more conclusive science in the current Western scientific model to show that is a real phenomena than germ theory, for example. Like the foundations of germ theory are fairly shaky when you pull it apart. So that's amazing. But the thing that I heard, which is really worrying in a way, they isolated the gene in people who have really high sensory abilities, such as clairvoyance. So they have they isolated this one gene that they think is where a lot of this is happening, and these people have it in orders of magnitude to somebody else, because we all have different abilities. What they're noticing is when people overuse technology, so they're spending a lot of time in front of the computer, they're not going outdoors, they're not sitting quietly, that this gene downregulates. So all these things that we're just starting to understand about the body and its abilities are downregulated by overuse of technology, which is not that surprising when you look at the world and the people advocating AI and like it's going to bring in a utopian age, and they don't seem very embodied. So
Oh,
it's
actually,
not
that's
surprising to me.
exactly. I'm like, not only that, but they're so highly stressed and strung out and never in the moment and constantly running around, like never sitting still and looking someone in the eye, you know?
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
concerning. But I think you bring up a great point because it's it's who we give our attention to and
mm,
who we invest our energy into. And of course, we're not going to like completely disassociate from technology, but it is, to me, I like to think about it and I talk to my kids about this. It's a little bit like sugar or junk food. Like we live
it
the
is.
80/20 rule, you can't be 100% obsessive and like so like
Yeah, yeah,
dogmatic. So I like to think of it as junk food. I mean, especially if you're going to sit there like so many people do is and scroll on Instagram, and it's like it's so addicting. I mean, I'm like, "Oh, go on there and just do something for work, like to get like whatever to like do research." And oh my gosh, it just sucks you in one thing after the other. And so, I mean, my kids don't have it. They're 8 and almost 12, and
great.
they
Yeah,
don't have phones or social media. I mean, they have access to like an iPad every once in a while, but the reality is that it does turn you into a bit of a vegetable, right? And you're on to someone else's idea straight away. You're completely out of yourself and into like someone else's idea. Like it's like you can just see the thread taking you far away from yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
you see, yeah, it's crazy. And then you see good old Zuxy, Mark Zuckerberg, with his rebrand, and he's always got those bloody meta glasses on, which so you're basically attaching Wi-Fi to your head, to your temples,
No,
which
thank
is
you.
beyond
No.
crazy. I also see the problem. I just want to like the problem. Other thing I see with this negation, which has happened for a long time with the body and the genius of the body, is that also in the Eastern philosophy of a lot of these teachings of you've got to get past the body's just ego, you've got to get past the mind and get to this place of just observation, which I felt like I did that when I was younger, and it was because you think you're doing the right thing because you're thinking, oh, I've got to get rid of my ego and the body, like it's all about enlightenment and all this other stuff. So that sort of also infiltrated a lot of the spiritual aspects. And I'm now, thankfully, there's some people in that sphere who are talking about, no, you've actually, the soul is in the body. Like the soul is a part of the body. And the way to get back to the self and the soul is through, as you mentioned, like what does the body want? Like starting to tap into that intelligence, because our consciousness is not just in our mind, not just in our thoughts. It's actually, yeah, it's completely somatic. So, and again, it comes to meditation. Like walking can be a meditation, running can be a meditation, doing any form of body work can be this meditation. And how can we actually permeate the world with that more than just I'm sitting by myself? And it's all through being in the body. So it's a beautiful, and the earth makes no mistakes.
Oh gosh, no. The wisdom and the synchronicity and the sacred geometry that you can see in
Yeah.
nature, in our bodies as well. And even it's in the fascia, you can see it. It's this incredible pattern, that's just repeating itself. And it's like once you start to see it, you can't not see it. You can't unsee it. You know what I mean? And I think what you mentioned is so actually beautiful and powerful because what the way I see it too is people want this healing, right? But they want to have something outside of them heal themselves when the reality is you cannot
Yeah.
feel until you feel. And the only way you can feel is to be in your body and be in all parts of your body and honor, the like you said, the shadow, the dark side of us or whatever you want to call it. Like we all have those parts of us that we need to bring to the light. That's all it is. We're just asking. And, even when you said, we've been sold kind of enlightenment or ascension, I mean, the new
Mm.
age has really tried to sell us that, but really
Yeah.
what we embodiment. We do not need ascension to come out of us. I mean, a lot of even my meditation teachers, I think of the past and that I've gone to, and they're all about, basically trying to get out of the body. But the reality is it's the vessel and it has, like you said, this wisdom that we carry and it is really trying to help us wake up right now. And, I mean,
Mm.
there's people that believe, I mean, I feel like your audience would get this. I mean, our bodies are supposed to live till about 1,000 years old, but we have just abused the shit out of our bodies with all the poisons, the environmental toxins, all the stress. I mean, look at people like hunched over sitting at their desk.
Yeah.
I mean, when I turn it on, I look at people and I'm like such a people watcher, like at the airports and things, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my,
So am I.
see the abuse that's happened, the hunched over, the
The
heaviness,
neck.
the storage containers that people are carrying around, whether it's
Yeah.
emotions or energy or just stagnant, like literally plastics, microplastics. Just, you know what I mean? Like it's the abuse that we put the vessels through to get some sort of success is truly, it doesn't even make sense because your health is your greatest wealth. I mean, it's so obvious, right? If you don't have your health, then all of a sudden you're just trying to buy your way to your health. But if you have your health, you can move mountains and you can create the most amazing shifts in humanity when you actually just live in this
Mm.
vibrancy and this radiance. And I mean, to me, fascia is the way to get there.
But then people say with with the ascension and moving to these higher planes, like, what on earth do you think is going to get you there? Like, a balloon. Like your body is the antenna to connect to all these extrasensory things as we're discovering it's in the body. So you're going to get out of the body, and then where the hell are you going to be? Like just floating around the
Well, you
clouds looking at
nailed
your
it. It's in
decaying
the
body.
body. It's in the body, and it's in the vibration
Yes.
that the energy of your body is actually like the quantum field that you're putting out into your force
Is,
field that you
yeah.
bring and every like I always say that when we do the work that I teach in my method, it's like you do these practices to actually raise your vibration and your frequency so that you can take that energy with you in everything that you do. So it's kind of like, think of it like you raise your vibration and you change your state of being so that that state of being comes with you and everything that you do. And that's actually, like we were mentioning this
Mm,
earlier, that's matching the masculine with the feminine. So the obviously the masculine is the doing, right? And the force and like control, and we need to make things happen. And of course we need that. That's not going anywhere, but we've been living in a state of that
it's just
doing, like,
hyper. Yeah.
hyper doing, hyper force, hyper control. And that's why people are so stressed and they're wearing this armor.
Mm,
And what we're now realizing is that, hold on a second, we also need to realize we're human beings, not human doings, and that we need to actually integrate. We need to feel that ebb and flow. We need to balance the force with the feeling of flow, with the feeling of surrender, of allowing. I love to say we got to stop only chasing. We need to start attracting.
mm,
It's like there's this balance, this ebb and flow. It's like riding the waves of life. And that's the feminine energy. And a lot of people think of feminine as girls or girly. I know you don't, but a lot of people do
mm,
still. And the feminine energy is really rising in all of us. And it's rising, on the planet. And that's actually what's helping us evolve, because the feminine energy is more about nurturing and reception, receiving and connecting, and heart to heart connections and feeling and emotions and being honest with how we
mm,
truly feel and not sweeping shit under the carpet. So I'm really excited because I feel like that consciousness is rising on the planet, and it's going to help us to not just survive as humans, but actually start to thrive more when we have more of that balance. And I think the body intelligence that we can connect to, more now than ever, the wisdom within is the thing that's going to help us feel like, when should we force more? When should we flow more? When should we do more? When should we be more? When should we try to push things through? And when do we need to integrate? And
mm,
that's happening to all of us. It's happening planetarily. And so when we start to expand our consciousness or understand, the different dimensions, where we're not living just in the 3D and what we see, but we're actually starting to tune into what we feel and what we intuit and what we, our instincts, our intuition, our interoception, and our insights. That's when the magic starts to happen in your life. And like the things that happen, I will say, just as a person that has gone through it, I mean, it is remarkable. The synchronicities that start to occur when you're feeling this sense of flow in who you are and why you're here. And by the way, this is available to anyone and everyone. So anyone that's listening right now that's feeling stuck, you have the power within you right now to turn this energy on, and it costs no money. And the things that will enhance this is awareness, nature, having heart to heart, conversations, listening with your heart, listening to your gut, feeling the full body yes, feeling the full body no, like listening from not just your head, but from your body, from your subconscious. It is so accessible to anyone and everyone right now in this moment. And
mm,
that's what I love about this. Like you were saying, it's not a supplement you need to take, nothing you need to pay for. It's an understanding, or what I like to call an inner standing. So once you start to have the inner standing of your power, your divinity, your miracle of who you are, it is just like this breakthrough. And that's what, if everyone on the planet could start to step into their power and have the serenity and remember the wisdom they have and the strength they have within them, the world will change. It's a ripple effect, because as we start to be the change, it starts to
mm,
show up in the collective. And that's actually a form of activism. I like to say that embodiment is a form of activism, because when you take your power back and you take your discernment back and you don't overconsume, the media that we know is bought by pharmaceutical companies and all the
Yeah.
things, we know all the corruption that's there, the government. When you take your discernment back and you start living your purpose and your truth and you start taking care of your force field, that force field starts syncing up. Like you and I, we're sharing a force field. We're going to start creating a ripple effect through sharing this conversation. I mean, that is fucking powerful. I'm getting the chills right now
Mm.
talking about this, and that's the body. It's the body communicating and saying yes. That's what chills are. That's the truth residing through your cells. So as you
Mm.
call your soul back into your cells and you basically ask your energy, your essence, and your soul to come back into your body, that's what embodiment is. It's like you said, your soul lives in your body and the spirit lives in the ether and beyond. So the soul is and that's where I believe the fascia resides in the soul. The soul
Resides.
resides in
Yeah.
the fascia, in the liquid crystal of the fascia, because um, the Dr. Andrew Still, who created osteopathy, I think it was in the 1800s. He was obviously studying the body, and he's the one that came up with that concept that the soul of a man's being resides in the fascia. And so that just stuck with me and just hit me in my heart so hard. And I was like, that's why in a dead body, you can't see it in the sponge. The soul isn't there anymore. It's left the body, it's gone to the
Yeah.
ether and back with spirit and God and source, or whatever you want to call it. So, what I love about that is how cool is that, that we can come back, we can call our soul back into our body in this now moment through a breath, through a connection like this, and through a sense of presence and knowing. So cool.
I love how you mentioned earlier too the geometry, the sacred geometry of the world, that is in every living thing. When you see it, it's in healthy waters, it's in the leaves of plants, it's in the blades of grass, it's in everything. And I was reading, so I've just finished writing a very large article on proper medical grade hydrogen water, not those little cheap machines and tablets that you see sold by
Okay.
grifters. I went, oh, okay, sorry, I'll leave that for another. It's a bigger conversation.
I
But
want
the but I was reading about biophotonics, which is the study of the human body using light, and
to.
it's really incredible that this is proven science, and just let it sink in terms of just the absolute majesty and mystical world which we all reside in, despite the best attempts of the media to reduce it to something small and materialistic. But unhealthy cancerous cells, or just unhealthy cells in general, have a really dissonant light wave pattern. So they're disorganized, disharmonized. If you've ever seen unstructured water and structured water, so like really unhealthy tap water, you will see those images of it, and it just looks sick to the human eye. And then you look at really healthy spring water, and it's got this beautiful geometry. So the same is true for our cells. They emit these light patterns of geometry and beauty when they're healthy. Uh, which is, if you think about it, that's just like we are literally made up of light and healthy light, which, to my understanding, the fascia is helping to transport throughout the system.
Oh
Um,
yeah. We're
yeah,
light water. We're liquid light. A lot of
we're
my body
liquid. Yeah.
say, we're liquid light. And so our light gets dim and the water gets dried up. And so when you apply the pressure and you stretch or you breathe, or I use the rebounder, you do some jumping,
Mm.
some gentle bouncing, use the infrared sauna, go outside in nature. I also have my free 5-minute fascia flow that I created for anyone and everyone, that's available as just so an offering, so that people can experience kind of my method and my teachings. And it opens up what I call the 5 fascial pathways that line up with the recipe that I learned through Ida Rolf, and also line up with the fascial planes that Tom Myers put together in his work called Anatomy Trains as well. So essentially what I do is I recommend people go outside, stand on the earth if you can, in the morning light,
Yeah.
absorbing the sunlight to recharge your light and activate the light codes within. And a lot of people in the healing world and the astrology world are saying that right now there's all these light codes coming in through the sun that's actually activating that DNA, activating our DNA to awaken and remember this intelligence within us. So there's going to become more of these superpowers that show up, like telepathy. And there's, who knows? I don't want to say anything, but there's some predictions that human beings are going to become superhuman pretty soon, and we're having this upgrade, and it's inevitable for all of us, is as we're evolving and evolving, involving and evolving, that we're actually going to activate this whole new sense of what it means to be human. And so doing my 5 minute fascia flow, it's been incredible because it's not a huge commitment of time, but it allows people to feel something. And actually, I'm educating throughout the whole flow, and I'm helping them understand that it's not like yoga. Like, we're going in and we're clearing out all of the cobwebs, and we're clearing out the spaces, and we're doing spiraling moves to actually unwind some of that buildup and residue. I like to call it sometimes like plaque. It's called, almost like you're
Mm.
flossing fascia, because a lot of the yoga moves, they're just like these repetitive patterns, and even Pilates too. It's very linear if you think about it. So
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
it's very non-linear. It's a little bit more kind of like rhythmic, spirally. We're doing some of the somatic practices like the slapping and the tapping and the jumping and the humming and the oming. This is all awakening our inner tech, our inner technology, to help us get ourselves back online again, get that sensory perception to wake it up basically. And the results people are having by just committing to that 5 minute fascia flow every morning as a non-negotiable, it's kind
Mm.
of like brushing your teeth to me. It's another form of hygiene. It's stress hygiene, it's tissue hygiene, it's clearing out the armor and the residue. And it's incredible how minimal amount of commitment it is, but with these maximum results. So I would love for you to try it too. I think you would love
I've
it.
got to, yeah, I've been doing some. I need to do your. I was looking the other night, and I'm like, I absolutely need to do more time on the fascia because I've done a lot of different
Yeah.
yogas. Have you heard of shadow? There is a form that I found years and years ago called shadow yoga, which was invented by this kind of out there dude called Shandor, and it's kind of like a form of Kundalini
Cool.
awakening process. But the beautiful thing is that they do it's a lot of circular. So it's what you mentioned. It's not so linear. A lot of Chinese medicine and tapping on the organs, and but that was I don't know. I have a love hate relationship with yoga. I can't remember what happened to me when I was doing that, but I started to really trip out after doing that yoga. I'm like, what's happening to me? I wasn't ready for it at the time.
Kundalini awakening. You're
Yeah, I
awakening.
was just like, no, leave me alone. You got to ruin my money flow. I'm gonna go sit somewhere and contemplate life. I'm not ready for it. No, I don't. You know, we, as you mentioned, we ebb and flow into things, and but that
Yeah.
was an interesting experience. But what you mentioned just before, the return on the investment with the time comparative to the breakthroughs that you can have by doing really simple things. So I'm very passionate about like the water, like cleaning up people's water, for example, because that's the foundation of that's absolutely number one, the foundation of your health. If you think of how we are literally water beings, and it's if you want to see the I don't want to bash Western centralized medicine too much because I think for acute care, I think
Yeah, of course.
they're stuck in a mindset where they're dealing with just for sick people, and I'm not going to blame them for the diets of people. It's not their fault, but it's startling when you go to a hospital and the first thing that they don't do is say, okay, what water are you drinking? We're going to clean that up. We're going to, whereas here's some tap water and try and get eight glasses in a plastic cup a day, and it's amazing to how far human beings can go the wrong direction, thinking they're in the right direction. When if they started in the right direction, they wouldn't need all the other. It would negate the fact that most of the pharmaceutical industry would probably disappear. So,
Oh my gosh.
mate, yeah,
No, this is such a great point to bring up, because there was a few things I wanted to share actually that I feel like will resonate with you and your audience. But I think the big kind of concept that I've been sharing with some of my clients and in our community right now, especially, which then will honor the Western medicine paradigm and not tear it down so much, because it's not about,
yeah,
eradication. It's about integration for all of us and everything that we've been through, and it's gotten us this far. But okay, so the big concept here is that we've been living in basically a world that's all about chemical, mechanical, and material. We've been living in the mechanical, material world. And now, because we're expanding our consciousness and living in different dimensions, fourth and fifth is, the way we see it, right? I mean, you can explain that in other ways, but It's basically an expansion of consciousness. We actually, like Nikolai Tesla said, we actually live in a world of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so when that sort of clicks in for people, and I'll take that even further because I think what's helped a lot of my clients understand this is it's your body is running on bioelectricity, right? But science and medicine didn't ever bring that into the story, which is why they disregarded and threw away the fascia. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't really ever talk about
Mm.
the soul or consciousness or energy. They were just looking at the body like a machine. And that is still happening,
It's
as
still
we know.
happening.
A lot of
Yeah.
medical schools and the way they treat us and the medications they want to give us
Ooh.
and the pharmaceuticals. But now, because we have all this amazing science and research, we now go, wait a second. There are so many other ways to basically support the body without pharmaceuticals or surgery, like opening up the body. There's so many new ways. Like one of the things I'm so excited about, I'm sure you've heard about it, is something called histotripsy, which is the FDA just approved sound wave therapy to basically disintegrate tumors in the liver.
Yeah,
It's like
they've been. Yeah,
breakthrough
that's
without
been that's been. I know it's amazing. Have you seen the footage? I haven't heard, actually haven't heard of that phrase before, but I remember seeing about 10 years ago a guy discovered it was in real time watching a tumors, cancer cells getting blasted apart by sound frequencies.
yeah. No, that I mean, like they now it's like, why is that
That's
not
amazing.
known?
The FDA. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called
Well,
his.
for good reason. It's
I
yeah.
know.
Imagine. Yeah.
Well, we
I
know
think
why.
people can work that out for themselves. Someone's making a lot of money.
And so, yeah, you can see it like disintegrating without cutting someone open, putting someone under. It's doing zero negative things to the body. And it's also mimicking what the Tibetan monks would have done
With
with
this,
their
yeah,
oming and their chanting. And they could disintegrate tumors in people's bodies through the sound of their voice. The sound of
yeah,
our voice is our inner technology. It's an inner sound healing, whatever, like thing that's available to you anytime. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can do it anytime. There's different types of mantras or humming techniques that actually address different, chakras of the body or certain areas of the body. So if you have issues in certain organs, you can actually find certain tones that will sort of activate and clear out some of the areas, whether it's the heart or the gut, or the pelvic floor or even the thyroid gland and that type of thing. So this is just the beginning of us coming back home and to this remembrance. And I think,
mm.
probably in the ancient times, they did know about this. So it's really a remembrance. Um,
Oh, yeah. Well, have you watched? I'm sure. Have you? Do you know all the things about the pyramids that they think there's all
yes,
these ideas
was
saying that they
amazing.
move things with sound and frequency
Well, we
because
were
there's no
just
other explanation for how they move these gigantic with the technology they think they had. Like, how on earth did you move them?
And that is, like you said, it's another form of technology that they use through sound. We were in Italy, so we were looking at all the cathedrals, and I had this whole new like way of seeing them, and you can see the sacred geometry and how the
Yeah,
sound. And then there was this gentleman that came in, and he started singing, and you could feel it vibrate through
yeah,
the entire church. It was just absolutely remarkable. So I think I'm looking at even all of those things so differently now, and sort of this new. It's like I can see things in this new way, and I think that's what a lot of people are starting
yeah,
to realize. And I think also what we're realizing too is like, why were we so kind of like obsessed with the fact that we have to do an hour or an hour and a half of movement to get the benefits? Because the
yeah,
new research is actually showing, like, there was all these studies about what they call exercise snacks, were actually just like things that you can weave throughout your day, which is like things that they would do in the blue zones, right?
yeah.
They're in the garden, they're outside for a quick little walk, they're riding their bike around. I do like star jumps throughout the day to kind of, burn off if I've eaten too much or I'm feeling like I need a little energetic pick. Anything you can do to sort of bring that bioelectricity back online and you boost your metabolism and you don't carry that that heaviness anymore too. And so I feel like weaving these movement snacks throughout the day is something my community has absolutely loved, even if it's like laying on the roller for like a minute to open up your chest if you've been sitting the whole time, or bouncing on the rebounder for 2 minutes. or going in the sauna and laying on one of these little spiky domes, putting this behind your head and, regulating your nervous system and releasing
Hmm.
some tension in the neck. All these really simple little, like I call them snacks, are just so easy and accessible. And, you can go outside and stand on the earth and pick up that electromagnetic energy and get that natural light and get a good deep sleep and drink clean water. These are all the things that are free and that will activate the healing energy available inside of you. And I also really believe too, like the whole thing with, I'm really frustrated with supplements too right now, like you are, because everyone seems to have a supplement and they're all just
Yeah,
so like
they're all.
literally,
It's completely back to front too.
oh yeah. And the protein powders. I'm so
Oh my god! If I see another protein powder, like I haven't yet, another conversation. But I mean, I'm just it's all and people talk about creatine, and it's just like, oh my, just stop,
I know.
just
No, it's
stop.
really me because you follow Dr. Jack Cruz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know
You know him?
Jack.
He was
Yeah,
a neurosurgeon. He's all
yeah,
about
yeah. Now he's
decentralized.
light now.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's all about light, but he's a little extreme, but I actually think that what he's saying is quite powerful, which he's like, if your body creates it, like melatonin or vitamin D,
yeah. Why are you taking it?
not take it because then your body will
Down
stop
regulates.
taking it. And
Yeah,
creatine, your body makes creatine, doesn't it? I think it does.
it does in a set. Let me.
Need certain food sources. Like I
Yeah,
think you should get these things from the way nature makes it
yeah.
because it's vibration and the energy of it too. It's not just the powder of the physical. It's got
Well, it's again you're also is that fascination with like we're going to isolate this one molecule and remove it from the intelligent design that it was embedded within the
exactly.
food and expect it to work in the human body the same way. It's the same with all skincare, all of it. It's such a ill-headed approach. I've just got to say this on because I had a vision when you said this of you eating dessert, suddenly jumping up and doing star jumps at a dinner party. Everyone was like, what the hell's wrong with her? So, she's had enough wine.
I don't mind being a weirdo. I don't mind being the
Yeah,
weirdo. People are always like,
that's
"What do you do? I want to know what you do." I'm like, "Well, I'll
oh
show you."
yeah.
Might be like
I
humming a funny song or something.
I'm that yeah, I'm completely that person too. This is fine. It's not my problem if you feel awkward. As long as I've got clothes on, just deal with
Black
it.
sheep.
But
Yeah, we got to push the envelope a little bit.
well, but it's so funny because what people consider to be abnormal is completely. So I'll do. I've found like I've just discovered, which is kind of obvious, but for me, like the most beneficial exercise is walking. Like you're moving your entire body weight, walking bare. I'm lucky enough to be able to walk somewhere barefoot on these like nature's pathways.
Awesome.
But if it's sunny, like I'll try and like I'm wearing shorts, but like I'm not wearing any. I want to get as much vitamin D as possible when it's not like a crazy high UV index. And it's funny because a lot of people will do this specific walk, and they've come from holiday from the city, and they've got the Nikes on, they've got the full tracksuit, they've got the headphones in or something, and they look at you like you're some weirdo, and you're like, I'm like, this is the most normal, natural thing on the planet is to be walking with. In fact, I'd usually probably just have a leaf here. Like, you're lucky I've got shorts on. I'm not doing the full. Like, or I'd just be naked. Have you seen the try? Like, I don't want to get arrested.
No,
Um,
honestly, that's what they say. I mean, a lot of these quantum biology doctors are all about like getting outside, being naked in nature, sunning your bum, all that stuff. But also even just like getting, sun on your belly, on your guts is actually that's how we actually
yeah.
activate the most vitamin D is so having your belly showing is definitely if you can do that and obviously, your eyes as well.
Oh,
Not in
your
like
eyes are fundamental.
hard, but like, yeah, no sunscreen, no sunglasses. Cause I've noticed too, like I've been experimenting with the whole sunglasses thing. If you don't wear the sunglasses, you don't get a sunburn. It's so
No,
crazy.
yeah, that's that whole thing because you're down regulating the melanin. Because it's
Yes.
like
But
with the
like
supplements, you're telling your body not to create it.
it's kind of wild. So all the things that we sort of like just put all this stuff on top of you and
Yeah.
hide from nature. But I mean, obviously the sun, you don't want to like overdo it like all the
it's
time. But
it's it's nuanced. Like don't take that. But again, it comes back coming back into the body and listening to the body and understanding when you've had too much sun, or just it's just the basic. Rather than we were created completely useless and we need to tip all this all these weird devices
Exactly.
onto us and all these chemicals, and now I'm okay. And the thing is, okay, well, if that worked, how come the chronic disease epidemic is only going on a hockey stick upwards? And all of the
Exactly.
things that we're seeing, like if this element of modernity were working, then wouldn't we see all these things decreasing? But for the most part, in most countries, we're not.
We have seen the opposite. I mean, we've seen the opposite. Maybe we have people living longer, but they're not living like
Uh,
healthier.
but they're
You know?
comparing it to, but that's compared to when they look at like times of medieval times, where the majority of people lived to their 30, and the majority of deaths were in infancy. And if you look at the way they were living, they don't know anything about sanitation. It was the first time we lived in really close together environments without sanitation, or basic things that we know now, which are essential. But if you actually compare our lifespans to healthy parts of the planet, like the blue zones or Okinawans, or even indigenous cultures, even taking into account childhood, early death due to complications in childhood, they were living into the hundreds. So we've actually gone backwards in terms of lifespan. If you take into account people who knew these practices and were living close to nature and weren't filthy all the time and getting hit in the head with axes, so it's not. It's a false dichotomy when they say, "Oh, we're living longer and healthier," but compared to what? Like,
It's
what
so
data are you representing that against? And again, it's that mind virus that people like to instill in you. No, no, no. You need to now take 80 injections and all these supplements because you want to just pedal over into your 80s with your body completely falling apart, and you're never actually looking at another person in the eye, just angrily texting someone on Instagram about how they're wrong.
I know. Well, also it's like, even the biohacking world, which I mean, I know Dave Asprey and I think what, he does and what he's talked about has really helped, but I also think it's gone too extreme as well
Oh,
where
it's
people
crazy.
like, they're only getting the red light therapy. It's like, no, just go outside and watch the sunrise and
Yeah.
watch the sunset. Like we need to fine if you need to supplement a little bit with light in other ways, then I get that, like during certain times of the year and whatnot. But I really do think that those are all just little bridges and kind of little temporary fixes until people start to realize, oh my gosh, it's all inside of me and it's all in nature. And just that resynchronization of reconnecting to nature and the rhythms of nature. I mean, even when it comes down to food, where you should be eating from the soil close to where you're living, it's like it has information that's going to give you
Mhm.
vitality, life force, literal energy, or light from the sun, or the
Mm.
electromagnetic energy from the earth. So I think it's coming back into that kind of rhythmic way of living. And I mean, obviously, it's great if you can grow your own food and eat from the land where you live. And I know that's not really possible for everyone, but as much as we can to get our nutrition from food that's local and seasonal. I mean, that is also, I know it seems kind of like a big deal. And it seems like the food industry definitely makes that a lot harder than it should be. But if we have the awareness, we can find ways to, I mean, going to the farmer's market is one of my favorite things ever. We don't have one.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's the best. It's just, and then you meet your farmers and there's an exchange
You
and
know
there's a,
everyone. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and you know where your
yeah.
food's from and it's being put together with love too, because that does matter. I mean, if I really do believe, like you were saying, the germ theory, like I really do believe that everything is vibration. And even when we get sick, it's our vibration just gets lower. And
Mm.
there's times we're going to be that way, depending on what's happening or what we're upset
It's,
about, been
yeah.
through. It's
It's also what
normal.
you tell yourself.
Yeah.
It it's interesting though, if you look at the whole biohacking sphere, which is mainly focused on let's call it anti-aging.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an element of vitality and living your fullest, but all I see from it for the most of it is like, how can I stretch my miserable life out? So, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
They're not really like living in the moment or being present or they
No,
know.
no, no. Let's just buy this. Just buy these glasses, and you'll live for another 2 months. Not actually
They're
seeing
not
anyone
embodied.
properly. It's
You're
not
right.
embodied. But I was going to say with the anti-aging thing and the people who I know who have embodied that and have that vitality and look amazing, it is about your consciousness. it's not about, and so you might use the mechanisms of all these things to get your consciousness to that point, but then there's yogis in India that have been documented for a long time who are in their 80s and 90s who literally look like they're 30 because they're using their consciousness to modulate their physical body. Now, look, that's not necessarily the goal of your consciousness because the body is still the vehicle for the soul, and the soul goes on, whatever your belief thing is. But I'm pretty damn sure reading near-death experience, a lot of near-death experiences, that the soul goes on and we come back, and it's just an endless journey. So it's also like, don't get too hyper. When people here go to the body, then they can get too hyper focused on the body is everything. Like it's a balance. Again, it's this balance.
Well,
But I was
there's
just gonna.
different. Yeah,
No,
no,
sorry,
no,
go.
go.
No, I was just going to say, like, so if you're interested in all of that longevity stuff, the best thing you can do is to raise your awareness and your consciousness, to talk to yourselves and to modulate that, rather than again outsourcing it to all these things and them expecting to stay young. But you've not learned how to control your stress. You've not learned how to talk to yourself in a nice manner. You still have these negative thought patterns going on a subtle level, and all of that is going to age you way more, far more than someone who's genuinely quite happy and loves themselves, who doesn't eat the perfect diet or drink the perfect water.
Yeah, that's what I love, watching these memes of like the biohackers being compared to like the
Yeah,
dudes
just
like smoking and drinking every day. It's just like it's just so I love that. I think it's really cool to see the um
it's the power of consciousness.
yeah, exactly. So actually that brings us to a really interesting moment. If you don't mind, I would love to share kind of like how my method came together, because
Yeah.
just said sort of really helped me kind of feel like this is a good place to share the method. So, like I said, I was the body whisperer, putting my hands on people, but I realized I wanted people to have this access to this wisdom and be able to embody it themselves and understand it, and then also become their own body whisperer. And so I started out with teaching people how to use the roller. And the way I look at the roller is it's like the gateway into the fascia, into the subconscious mind, into the superficial fascia. So we know the roller can't really go like super deep. So I wrote, my first book was called Taller, Slimmer, Younger, and we used the big 36-inch roller to clear out and go through the entire body, through similar to the recipe that Ida Rolf created. And so we rolled through each area of the body. So it's holistic, it's systematic, it's root cause healing, and it's not like, spot treating like a lot of people like, oh, just roll out my IT bands.
Hmm.
Actually, no, we shouldn't roll out our IT bands. We need to look at our shins, our calves, our feet, our ankles. We need to look at our hips, the rotation of our hips, our piriformis, all the things, psoas, all of that stuff. So I created this this gateway in through the rolling. And then the rolling then led to me writing actually my second book called The Power Source. And that's when I developed my other tools that are going in deeper into the tissues. Like I have the body sphere, which is the squishy ball. I have the domes that are the spiky domes that kind of mimic acupuncture. And then I have the infinity roller, which is essentially like two tennis balls in a sock that you can get into the feet and kind of into where the muscles attach to the joints. So you were able to get that actual modality I like to call body work. So we have rolling and then we have body work. Okay, so then you've kind of somatically moved out, without saying a word, some of those stuck emotions, accumulated stress, tension, and trauma from the past. So you're releasing it through breath, through sweat, through even maybe a quiver or a tremble, or even a laugh. Sometimes that happens too. So we kind of get all the stuff out, the junk out. We clear the pathway so we can, like I said earlier, you kind of clearing out this sediment, this armor, so that you can then kind of feel yourself again, and you start to have this sensory intelligence comes back online. And then we do the third modality is actually bounce. So we do jumping on the rebounder to flush the lymph and also flush the emotions and also clear out any emotional or physical weight. And this is where sometimes the breakthrough happens, where people actually lose a lot of weight. And a lot of that weight is actually encasing, if you will, a lot of those emotions or environmental toxins, stored trauma, stored toxins, whatever it is, blocked energy that's being held in the body. And so once you can shed that, you now are inviting more light into your system. And so then we go into what I call flow. And the flow part is really this intuitive somatic movement that's really nonlinear. And then we end the session always with sound healing, which I like to call vibrational healing. So we use Tibetan sound bowls through one of my colleagues who's a dear friend. And we have a number of her, I guess you'd call them, musical contributions to my method. And we use it all the time in the method to actually help bring that light, not just within you, but to actually radiate it out into the world. So it changes your vibrational state through. So, but you have to go through, well, you don't have to, but this is what I've witnessed going through this process is actually how people can start living in that state more often. And so, and this is just because I've been doing this for so long, and I finally was called to put this together into a cohesive kind of recipe so that people could do this at home. I mean, it sounds long, but actually you could do it in 10 minutes, that whole thing. It's like, think of it
Mm.
like a wheel. You could roll out for a few minutes and then you do a little bit of rolling on your belly with the ball, and then you jump for 2 minutes and then you stretch and flow, and then you lay down and seal the session with a couple of minutes of sound healing. And so, if I teach the class, if I came over and taught you and your friends a class, I would probably do an hour because we could go on a deep dive experience. But it is really accessible, and I mean, yeah, you invest in a few tools, but these tools, it's not like buying a supplement. You don't have to keep buying it. You buy them once, you have them for 10 years. I mean, some of the people have been rolling with me on my roller for 10 years. And so it's just a really beautiful invitation to begin a new way of like creating this kind of inner sanctuary, and it complements any activity or physical activity you want to do. It also just allows that light to shine brighter. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I think it's really important that I've kind of finally put this all together into a method that's accessible
Mm.
to anyone. And I will be teaching a certification on the method too in the next year. So that'll be really
Oh, it's
fun.
exciting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then, where can on that? So where can people find you and start this journey?
So the best place to start is with the 5 minute fascia flow because it's just not overwhelming. It's simple. People can get to know me. They can start to understand fascia, but also not just know it in their head, right? Like the intellectual side, but to actually start to feel it and to have an experience and to feel something, not just understand it in their head too, which I find for me in this world right now that's so loud with information. We're in
Mm.
information overload. We need to get into feeling and just the sense of feeling our body again and feeling presence, and what does that actually feel like. And a lot of people would rather not be in their bodies, but we're just inviting them to come back home to their bodies because it's their one true home in this lifetime.
Mm. And
I'll,
it's all this info. Sorry.
I'll share with you the link for your
Yeah, if you
listener.
can, share that, and I'll put obviously all the links to your site. And it sounds like
Yeah,
I mean, look, it's such a low investment for something which could transform the way you feel and the way you are in the world. And I've certainly found in my own life like those small little apertures into a new way of doing something through some small practice is what then facilitates these huge changes over time. Like all of a sudden you look back and you're unrecognizable from where you were, and to a large part of who you were. And what I love ultimately all these practices, as you've said a number of times, like they bring you back in.
yeah,
Like you don't need to then listen to 80 podcasts a week and do all this stuff, because you begin to realize that this stuff the most beautiful stuff was when you realize it's things that I already knew, but
isn't that the
someone
best?
just articulated. That's the stuff which really lands.
I love that you said in, because one of the things that I channeled through and kind of when I was putting this whole method together is it's not just about working out, it's actually about working in,
Yeah.
and working in through interoception, through connecting to our instincts, our intuition, our insights, and that inner knowing to insource the wisdom and to
Mm,
awaken it. Just a really
mm.
beautiful invitation to come back into who you are and why you're here. So that's a powerful, powerful message. And I love that you felt that and you used that exact word. It's, yeah, the involution.
The involution. Yeah, trust Richard Rudd to come up with a beautiful word like that.
I love him.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, he's a lovable character. That's
So
certainly
poetic.
sure. Yeah. Lauren, thank you so much for your time and everything you're doing. And it's obvious to me it's coming from that just that heart centered place to help people.
Thank
And
you.
what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the full course. I'd love to
Yeah.
chat with you after and just to share, just because there's so many other I'd like to also just talk about water and the fascia. There's lots of different elements that we didn't touch upon because it's that they're bigger topics in and of themselves. But I hope this has inspired people. I'm sure it has, to begin to look into it and to understand the body is so much more. And we're not just muscle and bone. That indeed we are. A biofeedback loop with the greater planet and the greater spirits above. However you want to language that, whatever fits your paradigm.
I love that. That's beautiful. Oh, Paul, this is amazing. I would love to have deeper dive chats on the other topics because I think that the water thing is such a huge thing. I'm, a big fan of what is it, Veda Austin? Is that her name?
Vader Austin, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she's wonderful. Yeah,
So
she's
yeah,
incredible.
for the whole conversation with that, we should have another time too. I would love to come back and chat with you again for sure.